We've got three equations in the opener today. They're all reviewing different types of equations that we've seen kind of recently. First one, what's different about that equation? So this equation has, it only has one variable. It only has the letter A as a variable, but it has it in two different places. So that's what's a little bit different about this equation. All right, and the reason I ask that is when you're taking a quiz or when you're taking the test at the end of the semester, if you need notes to help you out, you're going to need to know which notes to look for. For this equation, you're looking for notes that say something about the variable being in different places. So you're looking for the notes that say solving equations with multiple variable locations. All right, now we notice that we have more than one variable when we circle them here. So we've got the A in two different places. So what do we need to do to get it in one place so we can get it by itself? Okay, so there's two things we want to do to simplify each side of the equation. The first is distribute. So we distribute the 4 here times the parentheses. 4 times A is 4A, and 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. All right, then we're also going to distribute this negative 3 times the parentheses. What's negative 3 times 2A? Negative 6A, and then negative 3 times negative 4. Positive 12. I see a lot of people put a negative 12 there. Be careful about that. When you do a negative times a negative, it should be a positive. And then on the other side, we should have 18. We'll just bring that down. So we've got our equal sign on the line of equality, and we've got 18 on the right side of the equal sign. All right, now after we distribute, there's something else we want to do to simplify, which is what? Combine like terms. All right, we have a 4A and a negative 6A. We combine those and get negative 2A. Do I have any other like terms we can combine? The negative 12 and the positive 12. A lot of people just bring those down and then get rid of them one at a time, which works, but it's just more work than you need to do. When I combine those, the negative 12 and the positive 12, what happens with them? They cancel each other out. So minus 12 plus 12, they cancel each other out. It's 0, but I don't need to write the 0 there because I've already got the negative 2A. So I don't have anything else left on the left side. What do I do on the right side? Bring down the 18. And what else do I need? Equal sign on the line of equality. All right, now what? What do I need to get rid of to get that A by itself still? And how do I get rid of that negative 2? Divide. So we're going to divide by negative 2 on both sides. On the left side, the negative 2's cancel, leaving A. And on the right side, 18 divided by negative 2 is negative 9. On the next one, what notes are we looking for here? What's different about this equation? What does it have in it?
Square root.
It has a square root. So we're looking for notes that say solving equations with a square root. We start this one just like we always do. Circle the variable, draw the line of equality. But then there's one other thing I want to do since it has a square root. Put a box around the square root. And we do that because we need to get the square root by itself before I can do anything else. I can't get rid of the stuff that's in the square root until I get rid of the square root. I can't get rid of the square root until it's by itself. So what two things do I need to get rid of first to get the square root by itself? The 3 and the 2. Which one should I get rid of first? The 2, and how do I get rid of the 2? Alright, so we're going to add 2 on both sides. On the left side, when those 2's cancel, everything else comes down. We have 3 square root of 2e minus 1. And on the right side, what's negative 17 plus 2? Negative 17 plus 2. So we get negative 15 here. Okay, now what? Okay, we still need to get rid of that 3 that was on the outside of the square root, so we'll divide by 3. On the left side, the 3's cancel. Leaves the square root now, so we have the square root of 2e minus 1. On the right side, negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5, and we've got our equal sign on the line. All right, now what? Can I get rid of the 2 or the 1 now? Why not? Okay, they're still inside the square root, right? So I have to get rid of the square root before I can get rid of that stuff. So how do I get rid of the square root? Square it. So put the square up and to the right, square both sides. On the left side, when those squares cancel, it leaves 2e minus 1. And on the right side, what's negative 5 squared? What's negative 5 times negative 5? 25? Positive or negative? Positive, because a negative times a negative is a positive, right? Alright, so we get positive 25, equal sign on the line. Alright, now what? Add 1 to both sides. So we add 1 on each side. When the 1's cancel, that leaves 2e on the left. And on the right, it leaves 26. And then divide by 2. 2's cancel, leaves e. 26 divided by 2 is 13. We're going to come back and talk about this one later. But for now, we'll stick with that. Next one. What's different about this one? Since this one has a square, if we're looking for notes to help us out, we're looking for notes that say solving equations with squares. All right, and one thing that we're going to do a little different to start with here is we need to box the square just like the last one with the square root. We need to get that square by itself before we can get rid of it. And we cannot do anything with the stuff inside the square until we get rid of it. A lot of people on this problem, or this type of problem, want to distribute here. You cannot distribute because this is not an x and this is not a negative 4 because they're being squared. So we can't distribute like we normally would when we have a number outside of a parentheses. Remember, we have to take care of the square first, so we can't do the 3 times the parentheses when that square is there. All right, so I do need to get rid of 2 things that are outside of the box, which are what? The negative 7 and the 3. So we need to get rid of those 2 things before we can get rid of the square, before we can start worrying about that. So we get rid of the minus 7 by adding 7. That leaves the 3 times the square. And then on the right side, what do we get? 27. And then we get rid of the 3 by dividing. 3's cancel, leaving the square, x minus 4 squared. And then on the right side, what do we get? 9. Alright, now what? Can I get rid of the minus 4 now? No? Why not? Okay, it's still inside the square, right? So I have to get rid of the square. And how do I get rid of the square? Take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root over here to get rid of the square. I'm going to take the square root over here because whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. Alright, so when the square and the square root cancel, we get x minus 4 on the left side. And on the right side, when we take the square root of 9, we're looking for a number that multiplies by itself to get 9, which is 3. It's not the only number that works, though. What else multiplies by itself to get 9? Negative 3. So since positive 3 times positive 3 is 9, and negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, we have to use this as an answer also. So on the right side of my equation, it could be 3, but it could also be negative 3. So I need to write another equation over here that says x minus 4 equals negative 3. Once we have both of these equations, what do we need to do? We solve for x by adding 4 on each side here. And on the first equation, when the 4's cancel, we get x equals 7. That's one of our possibilities for x. But our other one, in this other equation here, we need to add 4. And when we add 4 to negative 3 here, what do we have left? Positive 1. So we get x equals 1 there. So we have 2 possible answers here. X could be 7 or x could be positive 1. Alright, and what that means is, if I take either one of these numbers, 7 or 1, and replace x with those numbers, then this equation up here is going to be true. right? Specifically, what's going to happen is what we get on the left side here is going to be 20 because the right side is 20. So the equation is going to end up being true. Now, it actually turns out that one of the answers that we got in the opener today is not a right answer. It doesn't work in the equation that we solved, even though everything we did was correct. And we're going to talk more about that in the notes. But there will be some times when we solve equations that we get an answer that just doesn't work. There are some equations that we solve that don't even have an answer. All right, so in that case, if the equation doesn't have a solution, but we get a solution, we need to be able to figure out that it's wrong. That equation, or that answer to the equation, that solution to the equation is not a correct solution. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how we check our answers to equations.